While my millionaire son sipped champagne in his five-story mansion, I shared a tiny room with two widows and a flickering lamp. Every Christmas, he would think of me, with a fridge magnet from the paradise he inhabited. My name is Margaret Ann Lowe, but most folks call me Maggie. I turned 70 in April. My hands shake a bit when I pour tea. I remember the weight of a baby in my arms better than I remember what I had for breakfast. I worked as a seamstress and then as a lunch lady. I kept my bills paid until the rent climbed higher than my widow's pension. Pride is a poor blanket in winter. I learned that late. I was a good mother. I fed my son, kept his shirts pressed, and took a small bad loan when he said he needed one. He learned early that money could speak for love. I learned to be quiet to keep the peace. Some of that is on me. Tonight, the weight of it was mine to carry. The shelter room smelled of lemon cleaner and old wool. The lamp by the bunk flickered, steadied, then flickered again. One widow snored softly. The other clutched a handkerchief, even in sleep. I lay on my side and tucked my red scarf under my cheek. I used to keep that scarf on a little brass hook in my son's hall. The vent rattled every so often. It acted like a clock. With each rattle, I thought, he is my boy, and one call from him could fix this. Shame pushed back. He knows that and will not. I tried to remember better things. His first science fair, his hand on my shoulder before his first job, the way he cried when the dog got tired of living. On the dresser sat the palm tree magnet he sent last Christmas. Ocean water so blue it looked fake. Wish you were here, in white letters. No note. The year before, it had been a snowflake. The year before that, a lighthouse. He never forgot to send a magnet. He never remembered to send himself. I picked up the magnet and pressed it into my palm until the edges bit. I thought of his wife, smooth voice, careful smile. She watched him before he chose anything. He liked that. It kept him from having to be the first to decide. The lamp buzzed hard and went dark for 3 breaths. My anger did not blaze. It cooled. I did not want to fight. I wanted safety. I wanted him to look at me and choose me. That felt plain and true. Morning would bring coffee in a line and eggs from a deep pan. The spoon would taste like metal. I would ride a bus. But in my purse was an old brass key. He gave it to me when he bought the house. There is always a room for you, he said. I kept the key because I believed him. The manager came with a box of holiday odds and ends. Take what you need, she said. On top was another magnet. Same beach. Then this one had his face on it, arm around a man in a red shirt. My fingers went cold. You can keep it, she said. I nodded and held it while the lamp clicked back to life. By morning, the air was sharp. I stood in the church hall line with a chipped teacup, a little rose near the rim, a hairline crack you could feel with a thumb. The coffee smelled burnt and sweet at once. A boy at the counter wiped spills fast and neat, like I once wiped tables at the school. I called my son from a corner by the corkboard. A bright woman answered. He is in meetings until January, she said. I am his mother, I said. She said, he loves you very much. I looked at the scuffed wood floor. Love does not send a stranger to say it. Does he know where I sleep? I asked. She paused. I will leave a note, she said. I heard her typing. I heard laughter far away. Please tell him I called, I said. It is urgent. I ended the call. I remembered the first time he paid my rent. It is an investment in the family, he said. He liked that phrase. It made him feel generous. It made me feel kept. I was grateful and smaller at the same time. It bought my silence. It bought his freedom to forget me when it was not tidy. A volunteer put down a tray of cinnamon rolls. The smell made my stomach hurt with hunger. On the corkboard were flyers for jobs, a grief group, a missing cat, a printed calendar had a red circle around the 23rd, parties for donors. I thought of the thick invitations that used to show up at my old box by mistake, smooth paper that carried the weight of a door. At the front desk, a woman with kind eyes slid me a bus pass envelope. Call again later if you need to, she said. I nodded and tucked the envelope into my coat. The coat still held a faint pine smell from cleaner. In the pocket, my fingers brushed the brass key and the little paper tag tied to my cup. I slipped the tag off and put it in my purse. I do not know why. Maybe I wanted to hold on to something with my number on it. Near noon, I called again. Same voice, same line. "Do not come by," she added. "It is not advised." "I will come," I said, and hung up. Outside, the wind stung. I wrapped the red scarf to my nose. The bus sign rattled on the pole. Cars slid past with music inside them. I let it hurt, then let it settle. Tomorrow, I would go to his gate. I would put my face where he had to look. He would have to choose out loud. His place sat high above the street. The black metal gate shone even in weak light. A guard stood in a glass booth. Heat hummed behind him. He leaned out when I walked up and tried to put kindness in his eyes. "I'm here to see my son," I said. "He knows me." He checked a tablet. "Name?" I gave it. He shook his head. "He is not available." "Tell him his mother is here," I said. "Please step back from the gate," he said. "I have a key," I said. I kept my voice low. He did not blink. "That does not let you in," he said. Careful, my hand went into my purse. The brass key was warm from riding against me. The edge of the chipped teacup tag touched my finger. Once, that key meant I could knock and open my own door. A van pulled up with white boxes stacked to the roof. "Delivery for upstairs event," the driver called. The guard opened a side door and the boxes went through. A box corner cracked and let a sweet, powdery scent into the air. Gold letters showed through plastic, "Winter Lights." I stood by the sidewalk and watched the path while the gate moved for everything except me. "Please," I said. The word felt thin. "If you do not leave, I will have to call," he said. I breathed in. The trees moved a little. A small bird hopped on the fence and flew off. "Tell him I am proud of what he built," I said. "Tell him I am cold." The guard went back to his phone. I turned and walked along the fence. The stones under my shoes made a dry sound. I looked up at the house and felt small, and then I felt steady. The smallness had company now. It brought a spine with it. A car slowed. I heard laughter. "Is that her?" a woman said, soft and amused. The window went up and the car slid on. I stood until my breath evened. At the bus stop, I took out the beach magnet with his face. I looked at it until my eyes watered. I put it away and held the brass key. It lay heavy in my palm. It had once meant home. Now it asked a question. I closed my fingers until the ridges pressed my skin. I did not cry. I watched the gate shine and said in my head, "I am not done." The key warmed in my hand as the bus came around the bend. I went back the next day. I wore my red scarf neat and my best shoes. The sky was pale and thin. I stood off to the side of the drive. Delivery vans came and went. A gardener pushed a cart. I could smell rosemary. She came down the path toward me. Silk blouse, good coat, heels that did not make a sound on the stones. She stopped with space between us. "You cannot stand here," she said. "He is busy." "I know," I said. I looked at her face. It was pretty and careful. "You married the money and shaped the man," I said. I did not plan to say it. It came out anyway. Her eyes went flat. "We will help you," she said. "But you cannot show up like this. Please do not embarrass us. Embarrass us." The word slid over me like a cold cloth. I reached into my purse and held up the chipped teacup tag with the blue 27 bell. "This is my cup in the morning," I said. "It is not embarrassing. It is how I drink coffee." She did not look at the tag. "If you need money, we can transfer something," she said. "I said he should find you a better place, but you make it hard." "I want my son to look at me," I said, not at a screen. Mia's car eased up the drive. The window came down. "Is that Maggie?" the driver called. His face took me back to a small kitchen table and empty plates. He had been kind to me years ago. His hair was gray now. He smiled, surprised. My son's wife lifted her chin. She did not like that someone saw me and used my name. "We will call you," she said. Her smile had no teeth. "Do not come back." "He gave me a key," I said. He said there would always be a room. She shrugged. People say things, she said. My heart thudded once, hard. I remembered my son, young and eager, saying, I will make us proud. I wondered when us had become a thing in his mouth that did not include me. I wondered if he even noticed. The driver leaned out a little farther. Maggie, you look well, he said. I held the wife's gaze instead. I could see her doing her sums, risk, image, control. A small wind flipped one end of my red scarf. I tucked it back. Down the slope, a dog barked and then stopped. The wife stepped aside so the car could pass, but not before the driver lifted his fingers in a small wave meant only for me. She saw it. The moment she saw it, something slipped. The control of the scene left her face. Just a fraction. She flinched and I saw it. I returned to the shelter at dusk. The lemon cleaner met me at the door. A radio in the office played an old love song. I sat on my bunk and pulled my tote into my lap. The red scarf slid warm over my knees. I took out the blue ledger. It was worn at the corners. Inside were dates and amounts in my neat hand. The first time he asked, the number scared me. I wrote it down anyway. I wrote down each cashier's check. I taped in the bad loan receipt, the one with the rough interest. I folded in a note he sent when things first went right. I will make you whole when I have liquidity, he wrote. He underlined the word. I looked it up that day and then put the paper away. He said it like a promise. I treated it like one. When small checks arrived, I wrote them in. When magnets came, I put them on the fridge and kept my mouth shut. When his wife called me sweetheart in that cool way, I stirred a casserole and carried it to her table. I thought if I was steady and decent, the door would open again. It did not. I ran a finger down the page. My eyes are not quick now, but they still know what they wrote. The numbers stood, patient. They had not gone anywhere. They never do. In the back pocket sat a few papers, a copy of the liquidity letter, a note from the bank woman who used to greet me by name. Keep your records, she had written. They matter. She died last spring. I kept her note because it sounded like care. On a small card was a date I had circled months ago, December 23rd, winter lights. I had put it away because it stung. Now the sting felt like a point I could hold. I did not want to drag my life through forms. I wanted my son to face me. But truth needs light. The ledger was not grand. It was plain. It was what happened. It could sit on a table and not lie. I slid the ledger back into my tote. I set the brass key beside it. I tucked the chipped teacup tag in the pocket with my bus pass. I turned the beach magnet face down on the dresser. The lamp hummed and held steady. The widows came in and took off their shoes. They talked about crust and grandbabies. The night moved on. I lay back and folded the red scarf over my chest. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like a small country. I thought, I have been living like a person who is lucky to be remembered. I thought, I can choose different. I closed my eyes and saw the red circle on the calendar, December 23rd, winter lights, the beginning. I fell asleep. In my dreams, I saw my life flashing in memories. When my husband died, the house felt too large. I sold it for less than it was worth because I could not walk past his chair without stopping. The kitchen echoed. I took an apartment near the bus line so I could still get to the school kitchen. The rent went up a bit each year. I thought, I can manage. I kept a jar on the counter for coins and put my name on the church list for holiday baskets. I told no one. My son's first company failed. He called me from a parking lot with wind loud in the phone. I need help, he said. I went down to the bank with my good coat and my ring, and I signed for a small, ugly loan. I told myself it was a bridge. He hugged me. And I believed him when he said he would pay it back soon. I liked believing. It let me feel useful, and I have always been better at useful than at asking for something back. There were 100 little choices after that. I took shifts when the younger women were sick. I skipped the dentist because a crown cost more than my car. I shut off cable and learned to like the radio. I learned to make soup from bones and odds. When he started to do well again, he sent flowers to the school and made a speech about his mother at a fundraiser. It made me proud and tired at the same time. Pride for his shine. Tired from the way the room looked past me once the applause ended. When he met her, he stopped bringing his laundry over on Sundays. He stopped sitting at my table and finishing the last of the potatoes. He bought a narrow tie and cut his hair close. He started using words that had no warmth in them. Optics, he said. Discretion, he said. Budget, he said, when he meant I should not buy a winter coat because he would get me one later. I kept quiet. I did not want to be the weight he had to carry. I told myself I was making space for his life. The first time she called me sweetheart, we were in a kitchen with a view of the city lit like a tray of candles. Sweetheart, do you mind if we do Christmas small? She said, smiling in that way that lets you know the answer is already chosen. I made a pie and brought it anyway. She forgot to put it out. I told myself it was a mistake. I washed my dish in their sink and set it to dry on a rack that cost more than my month of groceries. He sent money sometimes. He called it an investment in family. I took it and sent back a thank you that did not say much. I did not tell him about the month I sold my sewing machine to cover the gas bill. The machine smelled like oil and lint, and my whole working life, I cried after the man carried it out. The apartment was very quiet when the last thread bit at my thumb and let go. I tried not to be trouble. When the landlord raised the rent the third time, I asked to move to a smaller unit. He shook his head. Nothing open, he said. I packed the good plates and gave the rest to the church. I folded my red scarf and put it on top. I thought, this is temporary. I told myself that a lot. Temporary has a way of settling in if you let it. I wonder now if I taught my son the wrong lesson. Maybe I taught him that love meant I would take whatever version of him walked through the door, that I would always stand behind him no matter what stood in front of me. Maybe I made it too easy to forget me when the room was full of people who laughed at his jokes and knew which spoon was for fish. I thought my quiet helped him. Maybe it helped him step over me. I remember the night he gave me the brass key. He held it up like a charm. There is always a room for you, he said. He believed it then. I know he did. He had not yet learned the taste of doors that lock from the inside. We ate stew that night, and I left with my coat smelling like his pine cleaner. I pressed the key into my palm on the bus and felt safe. When the magnets started coming each Christmas, I put them in a straight line on my old fridge. Snowflake, lighthouse, palm tree. Each one a picture of a place I would never be. Wish you were here, the palm tree one said. I stood in my little kitchen and touched the words. I waited for a call that did not come. Eventually, I stopped waiting at the window. I kept the lights low and made tea in the chipped cup I found at a church sale for $1. It has a tiny rose near the rim. If you rub your thumb along it, you can feel where the glaze dips. It makes me think of work done by a human hand that tried. Maybe I should have asked for what I was owed years ago. Maybe I should have spoken hard and clear when he skipped my birthday dinner to sit in a room full of glass and names. Maybe I should have told her early that I did not need her approval to be his mother. I can see those doors now. I walked past them. I chose comfort, and then quiet, and then less of myself. It does not make me wicked, it makes me human, but it brought me to a bunk under a flickering lamp. Still, I am not a ghost of my own life. I have the ledger because I wrote things down. I have the key because I believed a promise. I have the little paper tag with my cup number because even a small claim can be a kind of anchor. I have hands that can still stir a pot and hold a line. I have a voice that has not forgotten how to say my name. Tomorrow, I will stand where he has to look at me. I will not shout. I will not beg. I will hold out the key if I need to. I will show him the woman who raised him. I'm going to establish justice, whether he wants it or not. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The bank smelled like paper and floor polish. I stood in line with the blue ledger against my chest. My red scarf touched my chin. When it was my turn, I set the ledger on the counter and opened it to the first page of numbers. I need copies of old transfers, I said. They were for my son. Here are the dates. The clerk had neat hair and ink on her thumb. She read the first line, then typed. The screen clicked through years. Identification? She asked. I slid my card over. She nodded, then looked again at the ledger. The way she slowed down told me she understood enough. "Give me a minute," she said. I waited and watched a man complain about a fee. He kept his voice low and sharp, trying to win by making the teller feel small. I knew that tone. It was a cousin to charm. It sounded like my son on a hurry when patience cost him too much. The clerk came back with a thin stack. "I can certify these," she said. She lined them up. The stamp came down in a steady rhythm. I felt the sound in my chest. She slid them across. "You kept clean records," she said, almost kind. "I counted lunches at a school for 20 years, I said, counting sticks. I put the papers into the ledger pocket. My hands shook a little. I tucked the scarf up to hide it. The brass key pressed against the ledger through my purse. The edge left a small line in the cover. I ran a thumb along it and liked the feel. The clerk lowered her voice. "There's a number," she said. She slipped me a small brochure. "If you need to report anything, you are not the first mom to come in with a book like this." She looked like she wished that was not true. Outside, the air was cold enough to bite. I stood a moment and breathed. I had proof now, not stories, not memory, lines on paper with my name beside them. The blue ledger felt heavier and good. Across the street, in a cafe window, I saw Nora, my son's first partner, watching me. She had a coat with a missing button and a face that had given up on pretending. She lifted her fingers in a small wave. I went to her. Nora took me 2 blocks to a narrow stairway above a shoe repair. The hall smelled like glue and dust. "He's decent," she said. "Plain talk." She knocked. A man with a loosened tie cleared space on his table with the side of his arm. He pointed to a chair. I sat and set the ledger down. I told him what I had. I did not dress it up. He read the copies. He did not make a face. "This is money he took when he needed it," he said. "Now he can make it right." "I do not want a war," I said. "I want him to keep his word." "I want him to look at me. We'll give him that choice," he said. He wrote 1 sentence on a pad and turned it to me. "Return the funds and sign a short acknowledgement by a date certain, no flourishes." He handed me a single sheet with that line ready. "This is a lever," he said, "not the story." Nora leaned in. "He lives for how things look," she said. "He will try to push you off stage. Don't let him." Her voice had a scrape in it. I knew she had been pushed before. I slid the paper into the ledger pocket. The brass key clinked on the table when my purse shifted. The sound made the lawyer glance up. "He gave you a key," he said, not a question. "He said there would always be a room," I answered. Saying it out loud hurt clean. "What if he says he never promised?" I asked. "Then you show him what promises look like written down," he said, tapping the ledger. "And you keep your voice level. He'll hear it more that way." "When?" he asked. "The 23rd, I said, his winter lights night." "Good," he said. "He'll want cameras. He'll want control." He pushed the single sheet demand back to me. "Put this in front of him." No speeches. My phone buzzed as I stood. "Angela from Mr. Lowe's office," a bright voice said. "He can see you after the holidays." "No," I said. "He'll see me on the 23rd. "That is not advised," she said. "It is now," I said, and ended the call. On the stairs, I checked my bag. Ledger, demand, brass key with a little paper tag looped through it. I pressed my palm to the tote. I could feel the edges. I could feel myself steady. Back at the shelter, the widows played cards at the end of the table. The room was warm and smelled of lemon cleaner and wool. I opened our small closet. The old green coat I wore 2 apartments ago still hung there. I pulled it close. A breath of pine cleaner lifted from the collar. My throat tightened. In the right pocket, a tissue, a sticky candy, and a lighthouse magnet I must have tucked away on a hard day. I rubbed the back where the metal had scratched from use. I did not put it on the dresser. I let it sit in my palm until it warmed. Inside the coat, the brass key, I had moved it there months ago. I threaded the chipped teacup tag onto the ring so it sat against the key. Tag, Zwanswanzister. It looked foolish next to the brass. I kept it anyway. I slid the ring back into the pocket and buttoned the coat. I caught my face in the mirror. I looked like myself, only thinner. My hair showed scalp. My eyes were still mine. I touched the place at my temple where my son used to kiss me and whisper he'd be back by dinner. I heard his voice for a second. It faded and left me with a quiet, I could stand. The widows argued about the rules. "You forget what helps you," one said, and they both laughed. Their laughter had scratches in it, the way old records do. It made the room feel lived in, not sad. I set the ledger on a chair by the door so I could not forget it. I turned the beach magnet face down on the dresser. Enough. The red scarf lay across the chair back like a line. Tomorrow was close. I could feel it like weather coming in. The window rattled as a bus went by. I thought about how many small choices had led to this room. The months I said, temporary. The times I thanked him for money and asked for nothing else. The moments I let his wife speak for him because it kept the peace. I could say I did my best, I did, but I also stepped back too far. That was the truth. "We're out of tea," one widow called. "We'll get some tomorrow," I said. "We will have a good day." I meant it. I turned off the lamp. The dark held steady. Nora called early. "Maple Street," she said. "He'll bring what matters." The bar was open but quiet. It smelled like lemon peel and old wood. I took the end stool. Nora sat two down, giving space. I set the ledger in front of me and kept my hand on it. He came in with a coat too big for him. He scanned the room and took the stool between us. "I'll make it quick," he said. He slid an envelope across the bar. The paper rasped. I heard it more than I wanted to. Inside were prints of emails, dates, payout. The word liquidity used as fact, not promise. 2 years ago, a note from my son. "Keep this off public channels." Seeing it in black and white did not surprise me. It settled something that had been moving around in me too long. "Why now?" I asked. He stared at his hands. "I had a mother," he said. "It was simple. Good enough." He slid a second page over. "I wrote this. It says I gave you these and that they're true to my knowledge." He had signed it. Clean. No speech. I like that. Nora read and nodded. Her shoulders came down. I did not trust the relief yet. I put both pages into the ledger pocket behind the bank copies. The brass key in my coat knocked once against the chair rung. A small sound. It steadied me. The bartender set 2 waters in front of us. "Anything else?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. "Thank you." As we stood, the partner paused. "He kept your palm tree magnet on the break room fridge, he said, held a menu with it. He thought it was funny. He looked ashamed as he said it. I felt the sting and let it pass through. I touched the small lump of the lighthouse magnet in my coat pocket. "Thank you for bringing this," I said. He nodded and left. Outside, the air snapped clean. Down the block, a crew tested a camera light. A woman in a puffy jacket pointed up toward the hill. The Winter Lights banner hung bright. My phone buzzed, an unknown number again. "Please do not come. We will arrange a private talk in the new year," the text said. "Tomorrow," I typed back, "in the light." At the shelter table, I cleared a corner. The widows shifted their cards and gave me room. I opened the blue ledger. I tucked the new pages behind the bank copies and smoothed them flat. The book felt thick now. Honest weight. I kept my note to him short. "You borrowed from me when you were young. You promised to return when you could. You can. Look at me and keep your word." I folded it once. I wrote his name on the front. No son, he knew. I put the single sentence demand in with the note. It was not a threat. It was a fact with a date. December 23rd, I set the brass key on the envelope to hold it flat. The key left a faint, dull circle on the paper, a small mark where something solid had been. The manager brought over a paper bag. "From the pantry," she said. 2 oranges, a roll, some tea. The oranges were cold and heavy, the smell lifted up, bright. I put one in my coat pocket, next to the key, the weight balanced. "Prayers?" one widow said, half a joke. "I'll bring back something better," I said, and surprised myself. A promise kept. I packed my tote, ledger, envelope, the single-line demand. I looped the chipped teacup tag through the keyring so the two touched. I left the beach magnet face down on the dresser. It had done enough. The bus was late and the wind mean. A woman at the stop looked at my bag, then at me. "You all right?" she asked. "I'm going to tell the truth to someone who owes me," I said. "Make him hear it," she said. "I will," I said. On the bus, I sat by the window. The city showed its bright side. Lights, glass, people moving fast. I let myself think of my boy at 5 with jam on his mouth, at 15 with a new tie, at 25 with a voice full of big promises. I missed the boy. I did not excuse the man. My hand rested on the tote. I felt the edge of the ledger and the bump of the key. The little paper tag ticked against the brass with each turn, a small, steady clock. Tomorrow I would stand where he could not look away. Tomorrow he would choose. The Winter Lights Hall smelled like orchids and floor wax. Warm air hit my face when I slipped through the staff door with the brass key in my palm. The key's ring clicked against the chipped teacup tag. Tiny sound, steadying. My red scarf held close to my neck. I could taste sugar in the air. Caterers moved like quiet fish. Trays flashed silver. I kept my tote tight against my side. The blue ledger's square edge pressed my ribs. Good. I needed to feel it. I passed a table with place cards that sat like white teeth. My son loved a room that told him where to stand. Near the entry, a silver tray waited for envelopes. I set mine on top, his name in my hand. No, son. The paper made a soft sound against the metal. A hostess looked at me and then away, like she had been trained not to see anything that did not shine. He appeared the way men like him do. Surrounded by noise, he wears like a coat. Champagne in hand, tuxedo that fit like a second skin. He was beautiful, the way money can make people beautiful. For a second, I saw the boy who once tripped over his own shoelaces. It almost broke me. Then he saw me. His smile thinned. He walked over. His wife matched his pace, one step behind, eyes bright the way glass is bright. I smelled her perfume, something white and cold. "Mother," he said. The word arrived without warmth, like a name on a package. "Not tonight." "Tonight," I said. I kept my voice low. "You chose the lights. I chose the truth." He glanced at the silver tray and then at my tote. He tracked things. It was his gift and his flaw. "You can call us tomorrow," he said. "We'll make arrangements." I watched his eyes. He did not blink. He was counting exits, counting people, counting cost. He was always counting everything except me. "Look at me," I said. Not at the room. Me? I felt the old brass key cut a moon into my palm. His gaze landed finally, like a glass set down too hard. His wife's voice slid in. "We'll help you, sweetheart," she said. Sweetheart landed like ice. "Let us keep the focus where it belongs." "It belongs here," I said, and touched my chest with 2 fingers. I did not raise my voice. "You drank from my cup when you were empty. Now you are full." A young woman from the door stepped close. "Is there a problem?" she asked him. "Not me." He smiled at her, smooth and fast. "Not at all," he said. It was a small lie, and it told me everything. I picked up the envelope from the tray and held it out to him. "Read it," I said. "In your own house." His jaw moved once. He took it. The paper disappeared into his jacket like it was nothing. He tilted his head toward the inner hall. 2 minutes, he said to me, to the room, to the air. In the study. I followed him past the orchids and the low laughter. My shoes were quiet on the polished floor. My heart made more noise than my steps. The brass key warmed in my hand as the door closed behind us. The study smelled like leather and a candle that wanted to be a forest. The window showed the city, a plate of lights. He set the envelope on the desk but did not open it. His wife stood by the bookshelves and crossed her arms. She was a wall now. He tried a grin that had saved him before. You picked a night, he said. I watched his face settle when my expression did not move. He sat. He did not offer me a chair. I set the blue ledger on the desk and kept my hand on it. I am done being your quiet room, I said. My voice was level. Read the page I brought. Then look at this book. He kept his hands to himself. We can do this with discretion, he said. No need to make it dramatic. You made it dramatic, I said, when you hid what you promised. When you sent me a magnet instead of yourself. His wife breathed out a small laugh. This isn't fair, she said. She meant the timing. She meant the light. Maybe she even meant the truth. We have guests. Then tell the truth quickly, I said. It travels faster than a lie. He opened the envelope with his thumbnail. He read my one line and the date. His mouth went still. He looked at the ledger like it was a trap. It is a school lunch book, I said, numbers that fed a child until the child could stand up on his own. I opened to the first page. You know my hand. That is my hand. He did not touch the paper. We helped you, he said. His tone went low. He was building a story. We offered apartments. You declined. You offered quiet, I said. You offered distance with a bow. He shifted. His wife stepped in. We can wire something now, she said. You sign this. She stopped. There was no paper in her hand. Habit had reached for a tool she did not have. I slid the ledger an inch toward him. I did not push it far. Do you love me? I asked, or only my silence? The question hung in the air like a bell. He hated bells. They gather people. His eyes moved to the window, to the city he owned in his head. He did not answer. He went to a place in himself where choices sounded like math. He was good at math. I waited. I'll make this go away, he said at last. Not to me, to the window, to the story he was writing. We'll settle. We'll get you somewhere comfortable. Do not buy my absence, I said. Return what you took. Put it in writing, in your own name, no one else's. He looked back at me, sharp now. He had finally located the cost. You're trying to embarrass me, he said. No, I said. I am trying to raise you. The words surprised me with how simple they were. One last time. He opened the ledger with 2 fingers like it might stain him. He stared at the first page long enough to remember the date he had called me from a cold parking lot. I could see the memory hit him. It landed and shook his face for half a second. Then he was the man again. His wife moved closer. She read the top lines. Her lips moved, not speaking. Money has its own language. She was fluent. We should handle this, she said to him. Meaning, fast, quiet, signed, sealed. He closed the book. Tomorrow, he said. My office. Noon here, I said. Not there. And you bring a page with your name on it? He almost smiled. Somewhere in him, he thought this was a negotiation. He did not hear the end of me. A knock tapped twice on the door. A young man leaned in. They're ready for your toast, he said. He saw me and hesitated. The room shifted a degree colder. My son stood. He picked up the envelope and set it under a paperweight, a silver knot. He left the ledger where it was. That told me more than anything he had said. Don't make a scene, his wife whispered as we passed, soft and sharp, a needle under silk. I am a scene, I thought, and kept walking. The corridor outside the study was lined with framed photos, ribbon cuttings, smiles that had been practiced. The orchids up close smelled like sugar and soap. I could hear the crowd, a low animal sound, ready to be fed. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. His cufflink winked. We will fix this, he said, meaning I will pay for your silence, meaning I will take you off the board. He said it like a man smoothing a wrinkle before a camera. You fix it by telling the truth where you made the lie, I said. No more rooms where you talk only to yourself. He looked over my shoulder, down the corridor. He measured the distance to the stage, the time left before the toast, the safest angle for a story. I could feel him do it. It made my chest hurt with a simple kind of grief. Do not do this, his wife said. Not to me, to him. Not with the lights. He turned the knob. Tomorrow, noon, he said again. The words sounded like a man throwing bread to a dog. I will make you whole. You do not have that power, I said. You only have the power to keep your word. I stepped back, making space. I wanted the choice to be his, where everyone could see it later when we told it back to ourselves. He pushed the door open. The sound hit us, the applause he had ordered from a life that did what he asked. He squared his shoulders. I saw him reach for his smile and put it on. I slid the ledger back into my tote. The brass key tapped the cover. The little paper tag clicked against it. Tiny sounds. A spine. Mrs. Lowe, a voice said to my left. A woman with a camera hung from her neck. Her coat was puffy, her hands red from cold. Are you family? She asked. A simple question. It cut more than anything else that night. I am his mother, I said. The words felt like a true thing laid on a table. Inside, a microphone lifted, a hush fell the way expense makes hush fall, admiring, easy. My son's voice filled the hall, smooth, practiced, careful. He thanked donors. He talked about home. He said community 3 times. He did not say mother. The photographer raised her camera. One picture for the piece? She asked. Her eyes were kind. Behind the glass door, I could see him lift his glass. I nodded. The flash broke open the corridor, white and bright. He turned his head at the light without meaning to. Our eyes met through the glass. For a heartbeat, the boy stood where the man had been. He looked at the tote in my hand. He looked at the key I did not hide. He blinked first. I heard my name called not by him, by someone else in the room who knew me from a kitchen table a long time ago. A murmur moved, the kind that starts small and grows teeth. He lowered the glass a fraction. I watched the smile slip, then catch, then slip again. Tomorrow, he had said. Tonight, I thought, and stepped toward the door as the applause swelled. Noonlight lay flat across the table. Lawyer's room smelled like dry paper and radiator dust. I set the blue ledger down and kept my palm on it. The brass key and the chipped teacup tag rested by my elbow. My red scarf hung on the back of my chair like a quiet flag. He came in with his lawyer. His wife followed and stayed by the wall. A man with soft hands sat at the end and said he was the mediator. He spoke in a kind voice people use when the truth is simple but heavy. We are here for 1 page and 1 signature, the mediator said. Then we are done. My son looked at me and then at the ledger. This is not necessary, he said, soft and trained. We could have handled this. Read the sentence out loud, I said. He took the paper, the mediator slid across. He read it in his mind first. I watched his mouth shape the words. Return of funds to Margaret Ann Lowe by this date. Acknowledgement that these were her funds and not a gift. His name under a blank line. His lawyer cleared his throat. We can add no additions. I said I shot not a story. A sentence I was careful to keep my voice level. I felt the edge of the ledger under my palm. It steadied me better than the chair. My son set the paper down and met my eyes. You do not have to do this, he said. I will see you right. Not see me right. I said, keep your word. I slid the ledger closer to the pen. Say my name while you sign. His wife shifted by the wall. This could be private, she said. We can arrange. Private is how we got here, I said. I looked back to my son. Out loud. He drew in a breath you could hear. He put the pen to paper. I, Daniel Lowe, he said, and the sound of his own name seemed to stiffen his hand. Acknowledge I took funds from my mother, Margaret Ann Lowe, and I am returning them. He signed. The pen scratched. The mediator stamped the page. The stamp sound was clean and final. The room let out a breath. Not relief. Something simpler. Gravity. The mediator slid a second page across. A short acknowledgement, he said. Public record. Your name on it. He held out the pen again. My son stared at the line. He looked at the window as if the glass would say it was a bad idea. He looked back at me. I did not move. He signed again. The stamp came down. 2 sounds. Enough. His lawyer gathered papers like someone cleaning a spill. We'll confirm the transfer, he said, today. He would have said more. I held up a hand. Good, I said. My son stood but did not leave. He reached for the brass key before catching himself. His hand hovered, then fell. "Do you want to come by?" he asked. The question sounded old and new at once. The picture of a door hung there between us. "No," I said. I slid the key into my purse. "You have your house. I will have mine." He nodded as if he had always known it would end this way. Maybe he had. Maybe he was just too busy counting other things to admit it. When I reached for the ledger, the chipped teacup tag knocked the table. A tiny click. The mediator looked at it and then at me. He smiled with his eyes. "You kept your records," he said. "I kept what fed me," I said, and tucked the stamped pages into the ledger pocket. The book felt full and honest in my hands. I tied my red scarf tight and stood. The apartment smelled like a fresh beginning, small, but mine. The window faced east, the radiator ticked in a shy way as if it was learning me. I set the blue ledger on a shelf above a little table and let it sit there like a finished meal. The stamped pages lay inside, heavy as a good stone. On the counter stood a humming fridge that did not wobble. I opened it and felt cool air on my face. I reached into the brown paper bag from the shelter pantry and set 2 oranges on the shelf. Their skins were cold and bright. I closed the door and listened to the hum. A house has a voice when it is yours. This one sounded steady. I hung the brass key on a hook by the door. The chipped teacup tag slid against it. Tag 22. The sound was a small bell. I left the key there, not as a promise to come or go, but as a memory I could touch and put back. I unpacked 1 mug, 1 plate, 1 bowl. I washed them in the sink, though they were clean from the box, warm water, a soft cloth, the smell of plain soap. I brewed tea in my chipped teacup. The rose near the rim was a little faded. The hairline crack caught my thumb. I love that cup the way you love a thing that stayed with you when others left. On the small table, I set the red scarf down and smoothed it. It did not need to be a banner. It could be a comfort. The afternoon light slid over it and turned it deeper. From the tote, I took a magnet I bought on the way home. Not a beach, not a snowflake, a tiny photo of the library on our old street, brick and ordinary. I pressed it to the new fridge and felt it grab. No promise in the words, no joke. Just a picture of a place I can walk to if I want. Mine. The kettle sang. I poured tea and stood in the quiet. The quiet did not feel like absence. It felt like room. I texted the widows. "Tea and rolls, tomorrow morning," I wrote. My place. 3 singing dots appeared, then a row of exclamation points that made me smile. I put the phone down and took the ledger from the shelf. I opened it to the back. I wrote 1 line. Apartment deposit paid. Date. I closed the book and set it back. Done. When night came, I pulled the shade and turned on a lamp that did not flicker. The light fell in a neat circle on the floor. I sat in it. For the first time in a long while, I did not picture a gate. It snowed a little before dawn, powder on the sill, soft as flour. I put cinnamon rolls in the oven and wiped the counter while they baked. The apartment smelled like butter and sugar and warm air. The radiator ticked in its shy way. I wrapped my red scarf around the chair back and set out 3 plates. The widows knocked and came in with their cheeks pink. 1 carried tea, 1 carried a small plant in a paper cup. "For luck," she said. They looked around the room and nodded the way women do when a space is right. We ate rolls too hot for sense and blew on our fingers. We laughed. Their laughter still had scratches in it. I liked the sound. It belonged here. The mail slot clicked. A card slid through and fell face down on the mat. I picked it up. Thick paper, his handwriting on the front. Inside, a short line. "I'm sorry. I'll do better. No return address, no time, no place. Just the words." I set the card on the table. I did not feel pulled. I did not feel cruel. I felt clear. I walked to the door and touched the brass key where it hung. "You keeping that?" one asked. "Yes," I said. "It is a story I lived, not a door I need." I went to the fridge and moved my little library magnet up a notch. It clicked into place. The fridge hummed. Outside, the snow hushed the street. Inside, The lamp held steady. The room felt full without being crowded. I took the blue ledger down one last time and slid the stamped acknowledgement into a clear sleeve at the back. I wrote one more line, promise kept. I closed the book and placed it on the shelf. I did not need to open it again. We ate our breakfast. We planned the day in small pieces we could keep. Later, I would walk to the library and look at books with spines that had been touched by many hands. I would come home and make soup. I would sleep under quiet. Somewhere up the hill, a bigger house held a party that would not feel the same next year. That was not my work. My work was this room and these people and the clean line I had drawn. The kettle gave a soft sigh on the stove. I lifted it and refilled our cups. The chipped rim kissed my thumb. I looked at the key, the scarf, the magnet, the ledger on the shelf, and felt something simple and deep slide into place. I was not waiting at a gate. I was home. If it were your child, would you take the quiet check and disappear, or ask for the promise in the light? When family turns you into a story they control, how do you take your own name back? Please answer these questions in the comment section.
My grandma told me this story. I have many more stories. Subscribe so you don't miss the most interesting things.